Okay, so welcome to today's first talk. I'm happy to present Nils Olander from Tekniska Museet in Stockholm, who made the first Maker Faire in Sweden. Welcome.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here, and I'm from the museum world, and I'm happy that museums that we are. I'm not alone. It's from the Nordic Tekniska Museum are also represented here. They arranged these things, and what worries me a little bit, as we just talked about by the bar there, is that I can't find any school people. Where are we ought to be? There are one, yes. Yeah, that's right, excuse me. But I want more school people. How do we bring out these to schools? Please come the next time anyway. And, but I will talk about how we made the first Maker Faire in Stockholm. Well, I thought it was in Sweden, but I know, yes, it's the first one in Sweden. But there were Maker Faire before me. Before us. And I brought some of the things you need to make a Maker Faire, but I will tell you how we came to the decision. And 4 or 5 years ago, I heard the word maker for the first time. It was, we had an evening discussing free downloading in cooperation with the Pirate Bay people. Very interesting, and politicians and things like this. And during that night, a journalist asked me, oh, if you're interested in these things, you must be interested in make. And so I googled make images and saw homemade flying objects, and I thought this is fascinating, but I didn't really understand it. But on museum meetings and science center meetings afterwards, people from Exploratorium turned up and talked about tinkering. And I thought, what is this? Is this something we do in the museum or ought to do? Or is it something I do myself at my home or not? And I wanted to find out these things. So I asked the city of Stockholm, can I get 20,000 euro to arrange do-it-yourself week in the museum and let school children go there and meet do-it-yourselfers and ask questions, and I didn't get any money. But in 2012, a group visited me. They've started a group called Hackerspace. The Hackerspace Make All. And they asked me, we are a hackerspace, can we make a hack night in the museum? And I asked my museum director, and she said, it's interesting. So they came and did these things during 2 days, and it was sleeping over for this group of 30 hackers in the museum galleries in the night between. And they were about 30 people showing lockpicking, how you repair your own synthesizer, and how you cook your own food, how you make your own mobile telephone network, and yeah, very good. But they didn't pay anything because hackers don't pay. And the visitors, 250 visitors, didn't pay the entrance because that's what I understood that was a part of the deal. But I was fascinated by these questions, and I started to read the Make magazine, and I went into these questions. And the Make magazine made me understand that there are differences between a maker space and a maker fair and a maker shed and a maker. The maker word are full of vocabulary which is hard to understand in the beginning. And I also understand the differences between the makers and the hackers. So, as we know, all makers are people who do things, invent things, cooperate openly on the internet, and yeah, we all know this. And hackers are people who are taking things apart, try to understand them. If you understand them, you understand if you understand the objects, you understand the world. And if you understand the world, you can change the world. And hackers are for social change, and these are differences. And I discussed this with my museum director, and she said, makers pay, hackers don't. Stay with the makers. And at the same time, I was visited by 4 people from Stockholm who said, this was also the spring of 2012, contemporary to all this, we want to start a makerspace in Stockholm. And these 4 people said, we will be in your museum. We will bring tools here. We will bring machinery here. We'll be here at evenings to do things. And I said, well, we normally have closed in the evenings. I don't know if I manage to do these things. So I said, no, we can't help you. I'm sorry. But in the end, I understood that I was totally wrong. But that's a question for today, maybe. And yeah, the things. Erik is sitting here. Is Noah and Filippa, and those people who started the Stockholm Makerspace went to see me then 2.5 years ago, and they helped me a lot since then. Anyway. At the same time, 2012, I've asked friends of the Tekniska Museet, which is the name of our museum, the Technical Museum, the Tekniska Museet in Stockholm. The friends of, all museums have friends of. In our case, it's old man society. And I asked them, people like me, and can I get 1,000 euros because I want to go to New York in September 2012 and look at the World Maker Faire. And they said yes. And I went there and saw the World Maker Faire and realized that 30,000 people every day during these 2 days of the World Maker Faire went into this enormous, World Maker Faire. And I went to I-Beam on the west side. I went to Hat Manhattan, and I was sleeping in an Airbnb kitchen in Little Italy for the first time in my life, and felt like a maker. And went back to Stockholm, and I met Rickard Dahlstrand, who is one of the people running the Swedish internet domain dealer, the ones that we buy. We pay them 100 crowns a year for every internet domain. They are rich. I'll give you 5,000 euro if you start a Maker Faire, he said. Oh, very good. So I thought, this is perfect. So I mailed to the Make organization. They are not here today. And got in contact with Sabrina Merlo I think in San Mateo or somewhere in California. And it was very good to speaking to her when you should arrange things like this. Because she helped you in a lot of way of having Skype meetings. Don't make it too big, not 1 week. 1 day, maybe 2 days. Don't make it, take care of sponsors if you have any. And it was very good to getting advices from her. And remember, it's not your Maker Faire, it's not the museum's Maker Faire, it's not the museum Maker Faire, it's Stockholm Maker Faire. I understood all these things when I applied for having the Maker Faire. And I made contact, phone calls, and to groups around Sweden which I expected would be interested in a Maker Faire, and especially school groups. I contacted the Contact, which is a technical school groups movement all over Sweden, and I went to their annual meeting where lots of people, like this room, filled up, and from different parts, and everybody loved, oh, we will be in your Maker Faire, they said. And I contacted libraries and on their Facebook group and made phone calls to them. But I want to come to, and also the Swedish engineer organization, the Swedish inventors organization. But what gave me all the makers that we got in the end was not contact with organizations. It was contact when we launched the website of Stockholm Maker Faire. Because it was the individual contacts with different makers, and which we answered on mail, and they mailed to us and said, we have problems, and we mailed back and said, if you have problems of bringing your equipment to the Maker Faire, we will have our museum van come and help you. And we showed our willingness of helping them. And that's it pays back very, very good to show a personal interest. And so all the 70 makers as we had in the end comes mainly from this, with some exceptions. The Stockholm Makerspace, for example, who brought us about 20 3D printers, and yeah, so it's I went on a mailing with Sabrina Merlo, and this contact with Sabrina Merlo, it went on typical American questions of your insurance. Are you insured? Don't blame us if you hurt children. But all these are, from Swedish point of view, we think, we know, we believe that we are all insured. She was satisfied with these things. But also branding. Sabrina talked about the branding. How does your website look like, and your poster, your T-shirt, what will look like? And remember now, this is a Stockholm Mini Maker Faire. Mini stands not for small children. Mini stands for the first Maker Faire you have in Stockholm. So the next Maker Faire will be Stockholm Maker Faire, and that's important. The branding, all these things was very. They had to approve all the things we did. We printed T-shirts like this, and I hope Richard Dahlsson is not here, but they didn't give us 5,000 euro, but they said we'll give you 200 T-shirts. So that's what the help we got. Sorry. So this was a year ago when the situation I talked about with Sabrina Merlo. And on the beginning of this year, I realized that we were not the first place in Scandinavia and a Nordic country to arrange a Maker Faire, and it was Norway, as you do. So they had their second Maker Faire in January this year and had the first even earlier. So I went to the Oslo Maker Faire because I've mailed to two people there, and I went there to see Roger Antonsen and Jon Havi, and I said hi to them, and they answered, and that's what's all about what we said to each other, because they were fully aware with all the telephone in each hand and helping all the people during their Maker Faire, so we hadn't a second to speak to each other. But I got a picture of what a Maker Faire should look like. But 1 month later, Jon Havi and Jana Hutchins, they came to Stockholm to help me, to give us advices of how to do. The group who was working with the Maker Faire, and they said they was very practical. You have to make a Maker Faire. Don't forget the color code system of bringing people who are visiting your Maker Faire to all the different parts you have in the Maker Faire, to find their way through the museum, to make all these signs. So and they said you must have buntings, the triangular flags all over the place, because it's not a Maker Faire if you don't have flags, build buntings, vimpel. And take care of the makers. Have a restroom backstage with free food, free drinks, non-alcoholic, and, all these things they needed. And take care of your sponsors and make them happy. Make sure this is the first Maker Faire you have. Make sure that they will return the following year. So make a community of this. So we did all these things. In the middle of May, the 17th and 18th of May, we had the Maker Faire, and when I went to Oslo and talked to the makers there, I said, I invited them to come to our Maker Faire, show your things in my place. And they said, 17 May, no, I won't come. And I understand, how crazy am I should change all these things. Okay, and now I'll show you some pictures what it looked like. ... Is it this bottom? Yeah. So 70 of the makers came, no, 70 said, applied, that were welcome to come. We have talked to them in the 70 makers or maker stations or group of makers, 70 tables. But only 60 came. And this, it's all right because 5 new ones came instead and said, well, I'm a maker. Is this a maker fair? Do you have a table for me? And this is the open possibility of doing, yeah, that's what it should be. We'll see what it looks like. No, this is, it should be, it should be, it's Mac, I'm sorry. I used to love Mac, and I still do. Okay, thank you, I understand. Up. The first Maker Faire, 70s, yes, you'll read this. Yeah, so you see all these signs, it should be, and the bunting, and you'll... Okay, so this was the poster, and when you're running the Maker Faire, you don't take picture yourself. You tell the camera girl, the photographer at the museum, take pictures, and the pictures she takes are pictures which should be possible to use, which is avoid people faces. They won't be recognized. Otherwise, you have their approval of all these things. It's these are maker pop-up. So this is Evelyn. She converted a refrigerator into an airbrush. Very good. And these are people which I brought there with all their equipment because they was repairing, making furniture, chandeliers out of old hats and night vision. Yes, it's night vision. He have a V&H camera and infrared light to light up the room, and so it's possible to see. It's a homemade military infrared binocular made out of a video camera, and yeah, there was a company who sponsored us a little bit with all the soldering equipment, homemade things, robots, you recognize all these, preparing food. I was happy because there were stations of make your own champagne, make your own cucumber, and $1 a day. Oh, this is the, Oculus Rift. This is binoculars linked to your droner, your multicopters. You can watch, all these things. So there was about 20 multicopters or something. And I was very happy to cooperate with the TEDx Stockholm. So I took the van and got there all big things to the place, and there was yeah. So, but what also is good with this individual contact is when this man who brought this robot and the night vision, Linus and other people, they said, well, at home in Småland, at home in Karlskoga, countryside places, I'm alone. I have no friends, really, no these kind of friends. But here are everybody are the same type. I meet the right kind of person here. So it's important to keep this society together, this community. And also what is good to notice that when this robot was broken and the boy who built it, he said, well, a part was broken down, but I went over to the 3D makers and they could make me a new spare part. So now it's running again. And another man said, well, I'm employed. I got a job. And the radio amateur, the old men's club, the radio amateurs, they said, we're very happy because people from the droners, they came to us and said, you're specialized on radio waves. Can you come to our club because you can do the radio waves thing better for us? So people meet each other in a perfect way. Yeah, in these kind of things. You reckon a homemade, impresses me, homemade Segway for 2,000 crowns, and soldering, and also this is very important. The radio amateur and the friends of the Tekniska Museet, they became the people who helped the young ones soldering their flickering robot. So they felt happy of helping the museum, of doing something. They found a place in this thing. Potato gun, steampunk, homemade bicycle. Yes, I contacted the Extreme Bicycle Production Group in Stockholm, but they didn't come. But a friend which I had before brought his homemade bicycle, and in the lecture room he went in with his yellow 80 kilometers per hour bike and talked about his life and the difficulties of bringing people to the different part of the Maker Faire. It did work very lot, except in the lecture hall, but it was fine. It was hard to go indoors. These 2 days in May was extremely hot, so we were happy to have 2,500 visitors. Normally, if we hadn't had to make a fair, we should have 200 people instead. Okay, this is the lectures, but what works better was the speaker's corner. Write up your own name. I want to speak. Stand up there, talk. Where the American ambassador came there and handed over a prize to the maker of the year. The steam engine broke down a lot. A lot of things broke down. Some old hippies were there also from the 60s. Not in budget. Well, it's ended up 8,000 euro. I thought it would cost 16,000 euro. 4,000 euro. It's not cheap. The most expensive thing was to force the carpenter of making all these things. 2,000 we paid an average. And the day after, people were complaining, why did you open the workshop? Where are our tools? Where? It's open. And you must make a video, Sabrina said me. The day after, you must have a video on the internet to show all these things. And we did. It's 1 minute, I think. Yeah. So the next year, the 9th and 10th of May, you're are welcome to be makers in the Maker Faire in Stockholm. Yeah. Pardon? Well, if you have. No, the city of Stockholm are proud of the Tekniska Museum. They are aware of us, that we are a good force, and so they won't be surprised if we ask them to support us with the cost for it. No, we will do like me. We will launch the website. We will, but we will. Before we do this, it's important not to. We've talked to the one which were there last year, and when I did them. But when you invite new makers, you have to have a proper website. You have to do all the things, so all the fill-in forms works. And we want to do it. It's half a year left, so it will be lost on the website.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.